and hustle culture, you have a recipe for mental exhaustion. I just spoke to a young lady yesterday who was grieving, and she had to take a day off, and she told me that it took her 4 days. So the entire week she felt like, I just need one day to not go to work and not do my responsibilities. And she pushed through until Friday, where she was like, I just can't. And that's the day she did. And she still was like, there was still a part of me that was like, I could have just pushed through, it was Friday. And I thank God that she didn't. And so I praised her for that. I'm like, thank goodness for finally listening to your body. Your body was telling you what you needed all week. Nothing that you felt like you needed to do was urgent, but your need for self-care and space to keep breathing is what was really urgent. And you didn't give yourself permission to do that. And so I invited her to give herself permission to take the rest that she needed. And we talked through things that she could do, like the weather is nice, go take a walk, go be in nature, go be with your family, do the things that you actually need that will restore you, rather than continuing to do the work. And I get it, a lot of us have a scarcity mindset, and because resources are actually scarce, we kind of justify it. And so we're like, well, if I don't work, I'm not going to meet these goals, or I'm not going to be able to take care of myself. But what we don't realize is if we actually take the time to rest, it allows space for more creativity and more, capacity to do what it is that we like to do. We also don't talk enough about how trauma affects us. Whether we have personally experienced things or we witness trauma, it can rewire our brain and affect how safe we feel in our own bodies, disconnecting us from our authentic selves and robbing us of our joy. We have to name these systems and realities before we can dismantle them. And I will add that we are living through a collective trauma right now. And so if you already notice how it's weighing on your body, pay attention to that. It's not nothing to be minimized. We really should be aware of that and try our best to take care of ourselves. So how do we protect our minds, our peace, and our purpose? These are 6 evidence-based and culturally sensitive strategies. First, we need to normalize mental health conversations. We can start small. Just start talking openly with your friends, your peers, people within your community that you can connect with who get it, and make therapy and healing part of your everyday language. Some of us are fighting battles trying to convince family members or people who don't believe in it that it matters. I say that while that's important because we hope to kind of bring them along, that may be wasted effort. And so just find, even if it's one person who can be your accountability partner that you can check in and just say, like, how are we really living this season? What do we need? How can we pour into each other? That's going to go a long way. It is important for us to build culturally competent support networks. Find the therapists, coaches, support groups from people who understand your lived experience. A shared sense of understanding, it reduces shame and it also builds trust. I'll talk a little more towards the end about an opportunity that I have to create that kind of network. Practice daily boundaries. Say no without guilt. And delegate without apologizing for it. Schedule time for joy, just like it's a meeting with an investor or any other kind of important meeting that you have. It's also important to incorporate preventive wellness. Moving our bodies, even for 10 minutes a day, can help us reduce depressive symptoms. Go for a brief walk. Have a dance party in your living room. Whatever it is that you need to do, it will make a difference. Foods that are high in omega-3s, B vitamins, and magnesium actually support our mood regulation. Also, sleep is not optional. It's your medicine. Let's do away with this idea, I'll, sleep when I die, or those types of things. Your sleep is very important. So if you can prioritize that, it's going to take you a very long way. Mindfulness practices like deep breathing or journaling can help calm our nervous system. Also, we live in a digital age. Use the tools. There are apps, there are websites, there are all kinds of platforms to search for therapy and support, journaling apps. There are things that will even remind you, hey, have you meditated today? Or hey, can you take a pause right now and just check in with your body? Anything that you need, it's available, so just search for it. We should also redefine success. Let go of the myth that success means suffering. Sometimes choosing your well-being is the most radical success of all. We can't prevent depression and anxiety in isolation. We need a cultural shift. This is going to be a new ecosystem where vulnerability is actually seen as strength. The number of people who I hear coming in saying, I don't want to be vulnerable, or no one can know that I'm struggling, it's so common. And so a lot of times I'm working with people to recognize that, like, your capacity to actually know what it is that you need and say, I'm having a hard time, is a strength. And so let's not perpetuate that idea that there's something wrong with you or you should be ashamed if you're having a hard time. Treating your mental health is just as important as treating your physical health. Some of us do put off going to the doctor, but we're more likely to put off our mental health even longer. And so think about it. If you have to take care of your diabetes, your blood pressure, you should also be thinking about, how am I taking care of my brain and my mind? Ambition is not at war with rest, and we are allowed to thrive and not just survive. A lot of us are stuck in survival mode, and getting to a place where we understand ourselves and we feel more deeply connected to ourselves allows us to thrive and do the things that we actually hope to do. And we need community care just as much as self-care. And so that looks like checking in on each other, making space for real conversations, and refusing to accept burnout as the cost of being excellent. And just a couple of reminders. You are not alone. You're not too strong to struggle, and you're not too successful to need support. And most importantly, you are not broken for feeling overwhelmed. I just heard something. I was at a conference last week and someone said, I'm not broken, I'm just going through some things, which just reframes that idea. Like, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. All you need is a space to be heard and seen and valued. And once you have that space, that allows you to really just take a look at yourself and think about what it is that you need. You are human, and humans are not meant to be, just kind of indestructible and not fazed by anything that's going on. It's actually within our human nature to respond to our environment. That's what our emotions are. It's just saying that something's happening and my body and my mind is responding to it. And so if we can normalize that, that actually allows us to access our humanity. It's dehumanizing, actually, to think that you're not supposed to have emotions or if there's something wrong with them. And you are powerful, and you are worthy of healing. It's important for us to build a world where we don't have to break in order to be heard. Usually it's by the time we're in a crisis, or, like Shashina was talking about, like having a migraine for 2 weeks, and you're like, wait, something's not right about this, right? It's like, at that first instance, like, I'm not really feeling like myself. Maybe that's a moment to check in and say, like, maybe I need something. Maybe my body's trying to tell me something. I don't have to just push through and wait until it gets worse to pay attention to it. I want to spend the last couple of minutes just talking about a therapy group that I've been leading for Black women called Healed Sisters. And I'll just share a bit about how I came to start this group. I started my private practice back in 2018, very small. I was like, I'm just going to do something little. And it still is pretty, I try to keep it small, but then it expands and expands. And so I'm trying to, kind of keep up with it. But the first thing I noticed, and it really it took until the pandemic, I think, for me to fully launch into it. I had been in a group myself, a therapy group, and it was pretty diverse actually at the time. But what I noticed was every time I shared my experience or I'd share something about my life, everyone in the group would be like, you're just so beautiful, you're so strong. And they thought that was like encouraging, and I just felt so unseen and unheard. And so I'm like, this is not therapeutic for me. I don't need anyone to tell me that I'm amazing. That's not gonna help me deal with my trauma or my depression, right? And so I was like, I think I need a space where like people look like me and they get it, and I don't have to explain, what it is that I'm trying to share. And that gave me a vision for starting a therapy group for Black women. And not that I had like a whole solid plan for it. I was like, somebody encouraged me, like, just start. If you have 2 or 3, that's a group. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. I put out a word to my colleagues, and I had 8 people show up for that first session. And we had an amazing session talking about the diversity of the Black female experience. We had people from Africa, people from Jamaica, people from the US, like all over, talking about how we're actually not a monolith. People think that, we all are the same, and that just that recognition that, like, yes, while we share some experiences, we're also very different and we can connect in those differences was really powerful. And so now it's morphed into a virtual therapy group that's been, actually Monday makes 5 years since I've been leading this group. And it's a place for any woman who's seeking connection with other Black women. We talk about all aspects of being Black women, and we learn ways to heal together. We talk about trauma, we talk about family relationships, we have entrepreneurs trying to launch their business, and anything. Nothing is, kind of left off the table. And what I've really valued is that we've grown to be such a supportive community and network that people have officiated each other's weddings, people attend other people's business events. There's some people who coach others, like who are trying to launch into the same career as them. And so I've always wanted it to be a space where people could actually bring the community that they're valuing and not have it just like isolated to my therapy group. Historically, in therapy groups, you're not actually allowed to talk to the people outside of the group to prepare, to try to preserve the confidentiality. But as soon as we all met, they're like, I'm coming here because I feel so isolated everywhere I'm at. And this is really important for me to find a space where I can just be real with other women who get it. And it's been really beautiful to see the relationships that have been built. So if you're interested at all in that group, please find me before the end of this event and I can tell you more. I have some business cards on the table. I also want to just thank Jen, Darren, Jentuby, the amazing team who organized this event. And thank you all for listening and showing up for yourselves.